Okay, me again, Matthew, aka Wanderlust Life, and I'm just going to go over some of the gear, camping gear and luggage wise, that I acquired for my upcoming trips. Uh, the soonest one to come up is going to be my Florida 2026 or Florida Loop 2026, using that as a prelude and test run trip for motorcycle configuration, gear configuration, and equipment configuration, camping, all of that, in preparation for my Alaska 2028 trip. And there'll be some other smaller trips, semi-local, Alabama, North Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, that I'll also do between now and 2028. So I'll cover some of the luggage, and I'll cover some of the gear and whatnot, and some comparisons and contrasts between my old setup that I had with Dexter, my 2005 Harley-Davidson Ultra Classic, versus Bruce, my 2025 Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250 Special. Or just Pan Am. That's probably easier. Okay, so again, what I've covered in other videos, I have the Harley-Davidson, aka, or these are made by SW Moto, panniers and top rack. There we go. Don't need to be zoomed in so much. Well, maybe. So these work out. So far, I've used them a little bit just for local trips, or not trips, but errands. There we go. And yeah, they work great. I like the fact that they come off the bike real easy. Also using the top rack with the passenger backrest. This is more for my son. This bike is not really comfortable for my wife. It's just not set up for that. But for my son, he's still small enough. He fits up there. He's gone on one little ride, and that's it so far. The weather has just been cold, and when it wasn't cold, I was kind of busy. But yeah, it's just down. It's been miserable like the rest of the country here for pretty much January, and it looks like a good chunk of February is going to be the same. But we'll get into luggage here and equipment. So first up, this came in today, actually. This is my emergency first aid kit. And yes, it's huge. It is probably overkill. But I went with the idea of thinking there's materials in here for about 3 to 4 people. I do ride solo 99% of the time. Especially in my trips. I do my trips by myself. Just, I like it like that. But if I do come across somebody else that needs help or whatnot, there's extra equipment in here, to do so and take care of that. So, it's just an extra precaution. It adds a little bit more weight. It's not super light. This is probably about 3 pounds, maybe, give or take. But I think it'll be fine. It's definitely not too heavy for up here. This does have Molly backing back here. It does also have a couple straps that you can strap into something, and then this whole backpack Velcros to that. I'm not sure I'm real comfortable with that. I think what I'm going to do instead is just use 2 rock straps, loop them through, these points here, go up and around, and strap it down. It'd be nice if there was something across the bottom here and I could put those straps in a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. I think I'm just going to try the rock straps first and see how that feels and see how I feel about it. And the idea with the rock straps, you got the quick release buckles on each side. So if this does have to come off in a hurry to render aid to somebody in a true emergency scenario, you just pop, the buckles, and this whole backpack will come off. That's the whole idea of having this being a Velcro, which I get, but I'm just not sure I'm comfortable with that on, over a 10,000 mile journey for Alaska or something like that. The Alaska trip, if I remember off the top of my head, is going to be about 12,000 miles, something like that, round trip. It's a big one. Okay, moving forward, I do have these pannier cover bags from SW Motec. These are going to be nothing real heavy, and it's going to be in each one. This side is going to be some electronic gear that's going to be used at some of my campsites and hotel rooms. Up towards the front part will be another miniature case, which I'll show some of that in a minute. But there'll be another case up here that's going to have, batteries for GoPro and SD cards. Drone will sitting up in here as well. I got a little hover air drone that can fit in here, and that's be real handy to have. I haven't got these strapped in yet. In the case itself, right now, there's really not much of anything, but this is where my laptop will go. So, separate little case for that. Give or take, as I'm showing everybody where to steal my stuff, right? Anyways, got the giant loop, Cactus Canteen. Obviously, you can see it hasn't even been used yet. This is for 2 gallons of water. This is going to be for my more, this will be for camping when I'm doing a lot of camping, and especially some of the remote areas. I'll fill this up and carry this with me to have water, because you never know, if you have breakdown, it can be stranded somewhere for a minute. If you don't have the adequate water, that's a problem. When that's filled up, I'll get into that in a minute. This is for the truly remote areas, and where it's going to be few and far between fuel points. This won't be used a whole lot. Like this won't be used. This will be packed. This will be rolled up and packed up on the Florida trip, but it won't be filled and used in Florida. But there is spots on the Alaska trip where this is absolutely necessary to have, especially between Coldfoot and Dead Horse and back. And there's a couple other spots on my planned journey where it's going to be over 200 miles between fill-ups, and potentially I could need to reserve. So with that, I got 2 gallons. This is also from Giant Loop. This is the Armadillo bag, not officially used for petrol or gasoline here in the United States. It's not designed for that. But it is, the materials are hydrocarbon friendly, and all fuels, jet fuels, and kerosenes are safe with this material. Because of that, I'm going to use it how it's not designed for, of course, and I'm going to put gasoline in there. Cough, cough, wink, wink. So that's those 2 bags from Giant Loop. I have another Trax bag that sits on top of the pannier from SW Motec, and this is going to be some of my riding gear. So this is going to be this will be my rain layers. That's with my Revit H2O sand pants and jacket. And when it's super cold, this all could be zipped in or zipped over top of that pants, or inside or outside. But most of the time, I'm going to keep these as separate garments and put them on over the pants, or the jacket on over the jacket. And so I wanted my rain gear kind of quick and accessible and have it handy. Gonna have some of my cold weather glove inserts. Got some of my cooler intermediate riding gloves here. I'll have a neck gaiter, all stuff in here, and things of that nature. True cold weather gear, I'll probably pack that in part of my top case. My thermal base layers. I have some really cold weather riding gloves from Tourmaster. Those will probably go back here in the top case. And speaking of packing wise, so the top case and this side case is going to be predominantly my clothing, with some riding gear, but very little. It's going to be pretty much my clothing, hygiene kit. That's like, my toiletries, right? The little small compact ones. So, so this is not equipment. This is going to be pretty much just clothing for, 40 days, but obviously it's going to be about half of that with some laundry in between there. This pannier, with the exception of maybe the laptop, this is going to be my tools and equipment and things of that nature. Pretty much going to be going in here. I do got to be aware of weight balance and see how that feels a little bit, but so far, but that's kind of what I'm planning at the moment. All that's going to go towards here. Obviously, this will be just, another set of, cooler weather gloves, here. So the ones back here is more a secondary pair. just odds and ends, medicine, you know, painkillers, stuff like that. My little pharmacy, I'll have everything in there. Stuff to clean up my visor, stuff to clean the windshield. Just, you know, odds and ends, stuff that I need quick access to, or easier access. That's all going to be going in the tank bag. And that's about it over there. Here, see, this stuff's brand new. The tags are still sitting on them. So Oxford dry bag, the Aqua T50. This is all my camp gear for camping. So this way, everything camping will go in this bag, with the exception of boonie hat. Boonie hat I'll tuck into the upper lid of the top case. And the only reason I really got this was something to keep the mosquito net when I'm up in Alaska, you know, to get the fine mesh mosquito net to keep that off my face. So, and I might need it for some sun protection at camp here and there too. I usually do pretty well with that. But I'm still working this out. I haven't got the sleeping bag in here yet. I do have a big Agnes. Oh boy, I'll have to post the information on the model. It's not the Diamond Lake because that's discontinued. It's the other one, the Echo Park. There we go. That's sitting upstairs. I do have a compression sack for it, not from Big Agnes because the compression sack they sold really was too small. So I'm thinking, you know, I got a big hole right here in the bag. That should be more than ample to fit the sleeping bag with a compression sack. I have a towel and washcloth, you know, camping, microfiber, quick drying, one little compact case. So that will go in there. Speaking of comparisons, so in the past, I would just use a regular towel. And that worked okay, but they kind of pack bulky and take a long time to dry. These are quicker dryer, and it's a little more compact, so that's why I went with that option. I used to use this regular plastic tarp. This is a canvas floor mat, I guess you could say. It goes in front of the entrance of the tent, spreads out. I forget the exact size. I'm not going to unroll it right now. But, you know, this is a little more durable, a little easier to clean. It'll be nicer, I think. Big Agnes sleeping pad. Yeah, there's a little bit of the wider one, but still fit the the sleeping bag still fits around it. But that packs up super small and compact. There's all my tent stakes. I did opt for a hammer, a nice full-size cheap Harbor Freight hammer, and I use full-size steel stakes. I used to use I have used the backpacking stakes. I just found that they weren't strong enough in really hard terrain. I ran across that when I was in Utah, and all my stakes started bending, so I was having problems. I have my big Agnes chair. I got one of the big full-size ones. This is the big 6 camp chair. Because I'm a big guy, this is rated for like about 300 pounds, 330 pounds, something like that. I'm slightly under that, but, you know, I want some spare room because, you know, I'll need that. And, of course, I have my tent in here as well. Other things that might go in here. Sleeping mask. I normally never use these, but considering how far north I'll be going on the 2028 trip, I wanted this to try to help block out the sun. Oh, yes, and my jet oil. This is replacing my previous cooking kit where I used a Coleman burner that would go on top of a camp propane tank with a base, which worked really fine, but it was a little bit bigger than this. I like this just because it's all compact. The fuel cans will be inside. I can use this cup as a measuring cup. Burners inside. It's all self-contained. You know, nice 2-cup cup. Well, you can put more than 2 cups in there, but definitely this will boil 2 cups of water in about 2 minutes, give or take elevation and whatnot. But, you know, most of the time when I'm camping, if I'm eating at the campsite, which I'll discuss that shortly, but most of the time it's, you know, the freeze-dried like Mountain House meals. There's other brands. I like the Mountain House ones. They've been pretty good to me. So I'll use this. And I do have an adapter in here where it goes on the burner and I can still use a regular frying pan, which I don't have that in here. So that's something else I'd have to put in there. Oh, also in here I have my mesh and I have a little camp pillow. Let's see if I can find those real quick. There's my camp pillow. This fits inside my sleeping bag, so very compact. And I'm not going to dig it out, but I have the mosquito net, which goes in there as well. Very small. And things that keep dropping. These are cargo nets that go inside the pannier lids. So whether or not these get used, we'll see. But I got them, and they might be handy for some extra cords, cables, things of that nature, straps. So let me put this over here. So moving on. Throw that in there. So this is my primary toolkit. This is the Cruise Tools roadside toolkit made for the Pan America. And so I have that. This is my secondary toolkit. This is some of the nice, I have a full-size ratchet, I have a braking bar, some other little odds and ends. Pretty light. This is small. This is a Kriega tool bag. So I have that. Trusty, geez Louise, I need more tables. Or start putting stuff away. Standard little Leatherman, nothing thrilling. This is replacing my needle nose and wire cutters, which is funny because when I was on Dexter, I'd have a separate needle nose, I have separate wire cutters, and I would have this. This can do both of those jobs, so I don't need those other tools. My tire repair kit has shrunk. Now I just got the stop and go. This is the tubeless tires, obviously, which I'm a big fan of. Over tubed. So I got just the essentials for that. This is the drone, or this is the joystick. This is the controller pack. Multiple different components. I can use the 2 joysticks. I can use this to one by itself. For the drone, this is the actual drone. It's inside this case. Hover Air Pro Max. Has an 8K camera. I haven't even used this yet, so we'll see how old this is. I know it's not a full capable drone, but for what I think I need or want, I think this will work fine. I just want some, slow speed selfies. This thing can't fly that fast, so I'll be doing maybe 15 tops when I do that. And I just wanted to get some shots of some scenery in some areas, more specifically for Alaska, but I'll be testing it in Florida and beforehand in certain spots. A lot of places I'm going to be in Florida, I can't even use the drone legally. Can't use it in any Florida state park. Can't use it in any national park. And most wildlife management areas, obviously, you can't use it. I think the only place I can really know for sure where I'm going to be stopping is around Lake Okeechobee. There's a county park on the lake there. And from what I can tell, drones are allowed there. I may play with it there just for some testing. Here I have it says waterproof. I'm going to call it highly water resistant. But this, it's marketed as fully waterproof power strip. I'm not sure I buy that because, there's no covers over the actual outlets. So I'm a little skeptical on that. But I figured, having highly water resistant is better than not. Previous strips, I'd literally carry a full-size power strip and a decent size grounded extension cord. I went with this option as a 3-in-1. I use this in hotel rooms and some campsites that have power. I'll use this just to help charge up all of my gear. Speaking of charging up gear, I'll provide a model number for this, but this is a power station, and this is powerful enough to, there it is. I forget how many watts this is. I think it's up to like 130 watts. But yeah, I can power my laptop with this. I can recharge, the USB-C, USB-A devices. But specifically, I can also, like I said, charge and power a laptop. This will be more critical for Alaska, where lots of camping and some of that's quite remote. I actually will be using this quite a bit, even in Alaska, Florida. My Florida trip's only going to be It's an 8-day trip, 7 overnights, only 2 of which are going to be in hotels. The rest of it's camping. So this will actually get some use in Florida. Oversized, perhaps for a lot of people, but I'm going with this option because I just think for me it's just simpler. my chain maintenance kit for on the road. So I got the cleaner for cleaning the chain and the lubricant, and I'm just going to go ahead and still bring a full-size chain brush, and that should fit comfortably. This bag, which has not been utilized yet, I got this with the idea of putting zip ties in it. My zip ties are huge, so this may just be used for gloves for chain maintenance. Oh yeah, USB power. I still got installed, so another USB converter, and that's going to be powering. That's going to be under the seat. I'll have a plug that'll come out about here, and then I'll have a cord that'll connect and disconnect between this bag and the plug under here. I'll route that through somehow and attach it for the actual trip. And that'll be powering some of my GoPro and drone batteries on the go. So speaking of which, this bag, the camping bag, the Oxford dry bag, that's going to go on the passenger seat right here. That'll be strapped in when being used. The Armadillo gasoline and Giant Loop water bag, those will be strapped in conjunction with the dry bag. Either separate strap, will probably be additional straps, which I had plenty of. And this is definitely a luxury, and it's a little big. I'm not sure where I'm packing it yet, 100%, but this is actually a portable muscle massager, USB-C rechargeable. Reason I got this is, I had an accident in 2017, and at times it still gives me fits, some of the muscle groupings and whatnot, and it gets really bad, and it's what the ibuprofen and all that's for too, but occasionally it gets so bad I can hardly even walk, and that's a real problem sometimes. So if that happens, I'll have this to beat myself into submission. This will go into the electronic. This will go into my top bag over here. This is just some of the charging bases. This is a USB charging station, a smaller 65 watt USB charging station. And that's the power brick for the big charging battery bank, whatever. And this bag, I'm going to have my SD cards, GoPro batteries, whatnot. That'll go in here. The cord will route out through here, through there, connect to the bike, and all that will be inside the top case there. And that's about it for gear. There's a couple other power banks. I do carry a Noco booster, so that will... Oh, yes. My brake light. Yeah, that's what goes in the back of my helmet. I have one of those. So here's the Noco booster. Boy, it's dark in here. So that'll be going probably on the tool side. Again, weight balancing is a little bit of a concern, but we'll see how that is. And this is another power brick I'm at this time plan on taking. This is not a heavy one. It still has about 3,000 milliamp hours, I believe. It has USB-A, USB-C capability. It has a built-in flashlight, and it is solar powered. Which, granted, this isn't really charging the battery that quick on solar power, but it's better than nothing. As far as other equipment goes, this is what I typically use a lot, the Repel 100. It's 100% DEET. I use that. I do like the oils a lot. It's the same product, but it's more of an oil form. And when I'm out in the deep wilderness area, lots and lots of critters, insects, I tend to bathe in this stuff. Not healthy, but it works. For windscreen, for the helmet, and windscreen of the bike itself, I know a lot of people use different products. This is again kind of a luxury, but I've been using Plexus for years. Love it. I like the smaller cans for travel. And then, I got some nice muck off. Oh, got a bag around here somewhere. Yeah, I'm using a muck off. I'll use this specifically for the visor, maybe the phone. I'll carry a couple of these in my tank bag. Then I'll carry more conventional, cheaper microfibers and another, Ziploc bag I'll have that on the bike as well, and I'll use that for cleaning the bike itself, headlight, things of that nature. Other charging gear, this helmet may be replaced by Alaska, looking at some other options. This will definitely be the one I'm using for Florida. It's getting a little bit long in the tooth. It's about 7 years old, and I know they say 5 years, but we're going with it for right now. And I have just regular Senya, Bluetooth, old school 10U Senya comms in there. I have my Alpine Star boots. Those are relatively new, very little usage. And of course, I have my Daytona touring boots, which I love, absolutely. Been using these for years. And then my son's boots. So that's about it as far as gear. I'm sure there's some other little odds and ends I'm leaving out. That pretty much covers it. That's what I'm planning anyways. Well, you know how plans go. I got to figure out where all this stuff's going to fit. Oh, I got some crazy here. So yeah, got to see where the stuff's going to fit, how it's going to lay out. I'm a little concerned about, if it's all going to fit properly in the tool side that I'm planning on. And if it does, and also about the weight balance. I'm going to have too much weight on one side. Will I notice that? I don't know. On Dexter, on the, my tool side was the other side. It was the left side of the bike. And I would have all kinds of junk in there. I'd have, all my tent stakes, all my tools, big old thing of mechanical wire, just crazy stuff like that. And it was extremely heavy, and I had a gallon of gas on that side. So it was definitely unbalanced in that sense. And with that bike, I never noticed, but that bike was also 1,000 pounds. So I don't know. The only way, so I'm going to have to load it up. Once I get it loaded, I'll take it some local rides around here, see if I notice a difference in handling or feel or anything like that, and adjust accordingly. It's still a lot of stuff. I can already hear people in the comments, or if there is comments, I can already hear, I've had them in the past, right? And there was some truth in that, but they're like, oh, you're overpacking too much stuff. Well, one of the things I'm doing differently this time too is I'm really not taking that much food. I may pack a few bags of Mountain House food, but for the most part, I'm planning on eating on the road, like for Alaska, I'm talking, and definitely Florida, with and then having the opportunity to source food locally, grocery stores locally in the area, in the areas that I can't. That's a really truly remote and there's not a good opportunity for that, then yes, I'll do the freeze-dried food and I'll have that packed in probably the camp bag. But it's going to be substantially less. Some of my other trips, like even USA Midwest 2023, I was pretty much self-sufficient. And, the USA South 2020, well, actually both the USA West 2020 and USA South 2020, there was a lot of food packed in that, but that's because of COVID, and a lot of places just weren't open, or it's harder to find places where you could stop in and eat in person. So I was preparing for that. And then the last time it was done more for economically, because I had so much food here, the freeze-dried kind, that I just packed like all my food with me. I did eat out a couple of times, but on that trip, I did almost every meal was ate at a campsite or whatnot. Not the tastiest, but the big drawback is I took up an absolutely ridiculous amount of space. So this is the bag I used on Dexter. This is Saddleman. I forget the name, the model, but this whole thing, on the last trip was basically just full of food, even some canned goods and whatnot. So it was tremendous, and so all that's being eliminated. Like I said, I'm thinking I'm maybe packing 4 bags, if that. And we'll see what there's room for and weight-wise, but that's what I'm planning on, is about 4, maybe 6 bags. I got the Alaska. It's crazy. I have the Alaska daily itinerary, like with gas fuel stops and planned food stops. That's already planned out. I haven't finished that for Alaska, which is coming up in 2 months. The Florida trip was coming up here in April, 2 months. Alaska's still over 2 years away, and I have all the planning for that done. Yeah, Alaska is really the one I'm gunning for. Florida is just a filler test trip. I'll still enjoy it, but it's not really where my mind's at the moment. But yeah, I think compared to my last loadout, there's a lot. I mean, different bike and different way of packing, different luggage, and that end up rolling into all new gear. All new luggage, all new gear, camping gear. The only thing that's camping wise, the only thing that's rolling over from old right now is my tent. That's it. I even have a new tent up in the shelf that I haven't even used, that I bought for the last trip, that I ended up just using my old tent. Because I still like my old tent. But yeah, that's where I'm at for is where things are at. I'll provide another update as I get a little further along. Laters.